If I told you something as a secret, a promise, would you keep it for me? Surgery is just one tool. It's time to put the other tools in the toolbox because it's your body, your health, your life. If you told someone a promise, you'd expect them to keep it, right? And if that person didn't keep the promise, you'd be upset, wouldn't you? Now, why don't we keep promises to ourselves? In this video, I'm going to talk about the dangers of not keeping promises to ourselves. And actually, as weight loss surgery patients, it can be a matter between life and death. We will talk about the difference between motivation and commitment. And if you keep your promise and watch this video all the way to the end, I'm going to share some strategies with you on how to keep your promise so that you can be super proud of yourself. If following through on a promise was easy, then broken promises wouldn't hurt so much. But following through on a promise with ourselves is hard because it requires us to kind of step outside what we want, and we have to challenge and break through some of those old habits. In many cultures, keeping a promise is a measure of someone's worth. Keeping our word is a sign of integrity. Yet, many of us struggle with keeping our own promises to ourselves, making us feel like a failure in not being able to do so, especially when it comes to food and some of those old behaviors that start creeping back. We make a promise that we're never going to do them again, and then fast forward, we've done them. So let's talk integrity. So integrity typically for most of us means knowing the difference between right and wrong, keeping our promises, keeping our word, keeping our commitments, and following through. Losing the strength in keeping our promises starts to erode trust. So if someone doesn't keep their promise to you, they do that over and over again, we start to lose trust in them. But that happens to ourselves as well. The more we keep breaking those promises to ourselves, the promises we made to ourselves, the more the trust in our decisions, our trust in our actions starts to erode faster and faster. So generally, the 5 reasons that we want to keep promises to ourselves is it increases self-confidence and self-esteem. It allows to build and keep faith in yourself. Another reason why keeping a promise to ourselves is important is other people are watching, especially children. And so it makes us look mature, trustworthy, and reliable. If we don't keep promises to ourselves, those unfulfilled promises starts to eat away at you at a subconscious level. And a pattern of not keeping promises to ourselves, not following through, unfulfilled promises just lead to a vicious cycle of failure, guilt, and shame. There's a difference between motivation and commitment. People get that kind of mixed together. They play off each other, but they're not exactly the same thing. Motivation can fluctuate, whereas commitment typically stays the same. So motivation can fluctuate every day, many times during a day, but commitment says no matter what, how I'm feeling, how much motivation I have, regardless, I'm going to do it anyways because I promised I would. Keeping promises to yourself is super important. It builds self-esteem and confidence. It shows others that you can be reliable and trusted. It also allows yourself to build trust in yourself. It shows that you can deliver, you can follow through with yourself. So of course you can deliver and follow through with others. You just want to have a good standing reputation with yourself. I'm going to ask a hard question. Do you use food, or do you want to use food to cope? Do you use it as an excuse? Is it something that you use it as a crutch, especially when you break a promise to yourself? For me, I didn't have a problem with keeping my promises to others, but for years and years, slowly and slowly, I stopped following through with myself. I stopped keeping my promises with myself. And so I knew that I needed to learn the skill build that trust again, keep my promises and stick to it, because I knew that it would help with my weight loss journey, but it would also help with how I feel about myself. So let's talk about how to kind of keep those promises to ourselves, how to follow through with something that we promised we would do. It really comes with preparation and consistently following through. Make a decision, bite the bullet, and actually follow through. Don't allow your inner voice to talk you out of it, because the more we consistently follow through on the little things that we promised we'd do, we build up the trust in ourselves, and we start to build up the pride so that it becomes easier and easier to follow through if we just do it consistently. Change the knowing stuff to actually doing stuff. I'm a big believer, and sorry, I do not know who originally said this, but transformation, getting results, transformation is information plus action. You will not get results or a transformation if you don't act on the information. And another thing I truly believe in is that courage is on the other side of action. Try to find mentors around you, people around you that you find have a great sense of integrity, and model them. What is their philosophy? What is their actions? How do they carry themselves? If you can, ask them, how do you keep your promises to yourself? How do you follow through? To make the physical changes in your body, you really have to start with making the mental changes as well. Don't make any promises or resolutions that you don't mean or are super passionate about. No longer live in the world of should. Take the shoulds and make them into I must. Discuss with yourself, discuss with others, really assess, what do you stand up for and what do you stand against? Take a stance. Make them like game changers. Tell yourself, I won't go back. Be super clear on your bigger why. As you've heard me say over and over again, it has to be more, your bigger why has to be more than just losing weight. Why are you doing this? Why do you make the difficult decision to have surgery, the sacrifices, all the preparation? Why? What is your bigger why? Be super clear on that. Remember to reward yourself. If you've kept a promise to yourself, if you've followed through, then reward yourself. And just keep reviewing the non-scale victories, the milestones, and just reflect back on where you've come to where you're going and how are you getting there. Really, how we treat ourselves is a reflection of how we treat others. Following through, keeping a promise to yourself really comes with thought, preparation, and organization. Surround yourself with people that support you and that want to see you succeed. As Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Find an accountability buddy. It works in a lot of programs. It can be a really close friend, just someone that totally supports you, that you can be honest with, but find an accountability buddy. Maybe it's in a Facebook group, maybe it's someone you know, maybe it's a family member, but this person has to super support you and they have to be able to tell you the truth and challenge you. So if you've broken a promise, be accountable to that person, ask for feedback. But and the opposite is true too. If you've succeeded at something, you followed through, you kept your promise, tell your accountability partners so that they can celebrate with you. Really look at what's holding you back, because I bet you 9 out of 10 times it is fear. Fear is the backbone of every excuse and is the reason why we break promises and don't follow through on ourselves. It can be the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of rejection, the fear of approval, the fear of not getting approval, fear of disappointment, fear of others' judgment about ourselves, the fear of someone telling you, I told you so. So how do we deal with fear? We actually come up with a story. We make up a story in our head. We tell ourselves, I can't do it. I can't do it right now. There's no way I can do this. It's okay. I just won't do it now, but I'll do it later. The truth is that when we're trying something new, when we're trying to break old habits, when we're trying to develop a new lifestyle, the truth is 90 to 95% typically at one time will return back to those old habits. But instead of focusing on that 90 to 95%, let's look at what is that 5% of people that are succeeding, that are not returning to their old habits and following through with the promises made to themselves. What are they doing? They understand what their values are. They're aligning their goals with their values. And they know that being self-reflective, being honest with themselves is one of the most important things we can do in our lives. The kind of the theme, the trend is that you need a compelling vision, a purpose and meaning to follow through. And remember, you can't just stop at success. If you have a little success, you can't just stop there. You're going to get bored. You need to be able and willing to learn and grow and evolve. Remember to enjoy the process. Try to enjoy the weight loss journey as we go through it. Don't always be like, I got to get to the end super fast, because we're going to make promises to ourselves we're just not going to keep. Find the joy in the journey. Remember that learned helplessness is something we actually teach ourselves. We teach ourselves to be helpless. Remember that our weight loss journey, be it right after surgery, 1 year post-op, or many years post-op, it doesn't just end after losing weight. And so we can't make promises just to that point and not remember we have to follow through and keep promises after that point. It's a lifestyle change, it's a journey, and it's a journey forever. So we need to be able to follow through with the promises to ourselves. Stop all or nothing kind of thinking. That does not help us in keeping promises to ourselves. Life isn't about being black and white, all or nothing, right or wrong. There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of things we have to navigate. There's ups and downs. So stop the all or nothing thinking. It does not serve you. Following through on ourselves, not breaking those promises to ourselves, is really about understanding ourselves. It's understanding that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to build skills and strategies. I want to talk to you about an activity called the Promise Card. I actually got it from a TED Talk by Amanda Messer. I will put the link to the TED Talk in the description box. I really encourage you to watch it. It's very powerful. But what she really talks about quickly is just a card that you, or many cards that you fill out. And all you put on the bottom is, because I said I would, because I said I would. And then you just write out a promise, and then you give it to someone, or you send it to yourself. So you make a promise, something you want to follow through. At the bottom it says, because I said I would. You give it to someone. If you're giving it to someone you trust, you say, this is kind of like a business transaction. I'm doing this, I mean it. I'm giving it to you for safekeeping. And then when I follow through on this promise, you give it back to me. And she talks about it. I really encourage you to check out that video. It's a short video, but very powerful, on how this little activity starts to help you fulfill the promises to yourself, follow through, and then she gives reasons why promises are super important to keep. So let's make the commitment to each other and to ourselves, because remember, commitment is about doing it anyways, regardless of the motivation, regardless of what's going on. Let's keep the commitment that we are going to start now, today, and remind ourselves that we're going to keep promises, we're going to follow through, because you know what? I believe that you got this. I believe I've got this, because we deserve to live our best selves in our best lives. Our health is worth it. You're worth it. And the people around us that support us and love it are worth it.